Welcome back to Real Life PMP Podcast, where we continue our enlightening conversation with Don Mahan, the brilliant mind behind the book Meet the Players in Projectland. I'm your host, Crystal Richards, and in this second episode of our four-part series, we delve deeper into Don's creative process and the fascinating avatars she developed for her book. Dawn shares her insights about the critical role of the sponsor in project management, including the behaviors of the evil sponsor that every project manager should watch out for. We'll also explore why Dawn chose a tiger as the avatar for the project manager and discuss her sage advice for dealing with stakeholders. One memorable piece of advice she offers is, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Take a listen. That is Ruth is great, and it's exciting. Just for listeners, Don and I, along with Ruth Pierce, are in a mastermind group, and it's just, I highly recommend that for a lot of us, because we are, right, the lone project manager, as you described with the client that you were working with. And oh my gosh, this is such a great resource so that you're not alone. It's confirming that you're not stupid, you're not crazy. Like, this is the world that we work in, and this book can help you navigate. It's a great guide and that roadmap for you in navigating through sometimes the twists and turns that happen on projects.
Yeah,
And
it's an adventure, that's for
it is,
sure.
it is. And one particular character in this adventure is the sponsor.
Oh, yes.
And I want to talk about the role of the sponsor, especially how I love how you talk about the different evil sponsor behaviors. So it's not that they're evil people, it's just the behaviors that they display can sometimes be frustrating for us as project managers. There's the
That's for
perfect world
sure.
project manager. And
Yes. Yeah, and they don't talk about this. Nobody talks about this because nobody wants to offend anybody anymore. And I'm like, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just trying to point out and show you the mirror and show you that these are some behaviors that are not helpful if you want your
Mhm.
project to succeed. So I hope that anybody that's got any of these, characters, steering team members, and in the steering team chapter, I also talk about some evil behaviors there, or sponsors that are new to sponsorship, that you gift them this book, gift it to them, and be like, this is my gift to you because I know you want to be a great sponsor. And there are some tips in here that can help you with that if you like. And that could be a fun way to sort of open up the conversation. But yeah, so did you have a favorite of the evil sponsor behaviors? Did you have one that really resonated with you?
Yes, it was the sponsor, the what is it, the drive-by direction giver. That one is classic, evil sponsor number one, where I could totally see it in my real life. I just like, hey, do this. They're out the room.
Right.
Yes, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one really hits people hard, and they're like, and I see a lot of head nodding when I do speaking on this one. And in fact, in sponsor school, so because sponsors usually don't get to go to sponsor school, I created one, right? And so
Mhm.
in sponsor school, when I do this, I'm like, I I I tell them, I said, don't do this. This is what not to do, right? Don't run by somebody's desk and drop a project on their lap and keep running. Don't do that because, and I talk about it here, and if, is it okay if I read a little bit
Yeah,
from this?
I think that
Yeah.
would be great.
Okay, cool. So this is what I tell them in class, right? So it says, we know you're a busy person, project sponsor, but the drive-by method results in bodies jumping around just like drive-by shootings do in action movies. Stopping someone in the hallway while you're running to a meeting, or briefly standing in the doorway of your project manager's office for a moment while hammering instructions without enough time for clarifying questions, a short discussion about priorities, or an understanding of context is unfair. The result of a drive-by is generally either more disruptive than you imagined, or your request will be ignored until your direction is clear. Many projects have failed because the project manager was either too intimidated to ask qualifying or challenging questions of the sponsor, or wasn't afforded the opportunity, don't foster such an environment. So this is speaking straight at these sponsors and helping them understand what not to do. And then he goes on to suggest what to do also instead.
I love it, and that's oftentimes what people really that's the missing piece that you really hammer is that you give that direction of, "Here's what you should do. Here's what you should consider doing." Because it's very easy to say, "Here's the situation. Okay, next topic." And people are like, "Well, what do I do?" And that's the really what people are craving, and I love that you do that all throughout your book.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you. I really wanted to be helpful for people in a practical sense that they can just immediately recognize in themselves these behaviors that are evil in Project Land. You know, they might be fine at home, right? Like clean your room and then you keep running, but not so much at the workplace.
I hear that. Oh my goodness. Well, because this is for project managers, I definitely want to ask the question and put focus on why did you pick the tiger as the avatar for the project manager? And I
I
don't think I haven't noticed your scarf. Okay.
Yes, I am trying to add animal avatar clothing to my mix. So, yes, I have one scarf right now that's got the stripes on it. So, yeah, so thank you for asking this question. I love this question. So the reason I picked the tiger, and I picked the tiger a long, long time ago, by the way, because the PMOtrain.com logo is a tiger, and we are serving mostly project managers, sometimes
Mhm.
sneakily by, giving sponsor school and stuff like that, right? It's really because project managers have asked us, could you please train my executive because they need it, right? Like tell
Mhm.
tell them everything you told me. And so we created that. So the sponsor is the lion, which we know is the king is often called the king of the jungle. I say king or queen of the
Mhm.
jungle, right? And so the tiger is awfully close to the lion. So I went to Scotland and there was this really cool zoo in Scotland, totally open, totally as natural as it could be. And there was a woman there that trained the tigers. And she spent some time with me on a bench sitting and talking about her tigers and what they do and what they were like. And I was in awe of these giant creatures and their characteristics. And I thought, wow, what a great metaphor for the tiger. And so because the tiger is, not known as the king or queen of the jungle, but is so close. I mean, also a big cat that has to harness, we have to harness that big cat courage that we talk about
Mhm.
with the lion, right? That the lions are
Great
known as
metaphor.
courageous. And
Mhm.
also, tigers have to earn their stripes, right? So tigers have stripes. And I feel that great project managers earn every single one of those stripes through experience in project land. The real hardcore experience that you and I know happens in real life project management. And there's one other sneaky reason. The tiger on the cover of the book is orange. Orange is made by mixing yellow and red, right?
Mhm.
So the thing is that when a project goes super smoothly and it's green lights all the way, right? No traffic, green lights all the way, feeling good, music on, wind in your hair, everything's sunny, then people are like, I didn't need a project manager. It's when they realize that the project manager just kept their project on the rails and got it back on track when things are hard, that project managers really show people what the value is that they bring.
Mhm.
So that orange is like this kind of hint of, when we live in that yellow red zone, right? That's where we can really shine and help the team.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Very sneaky
Sneaky.
there.
Yeah. Subliminal, maybe, But this is the first time, Crystal, I've ever talked about that, the color part, because it's so
Really?
prominent on the cover of the book, the orange. Yeah.
That is pretty cool. I like that. I like that. Well, are there any other tips from a project manager lens that really stuck out to you when you wrote this book? Any people, not by name, of course, but people that you've worked with that when you wrote a chapter, you were really thinking about them.
Yeah, there were a number of people that I was thinking about when I wrote this and, that have been in my practical project management certificate courses and in coaching and stuff. And in fact, some of the stories and lessons from them are baked into it throughout the book. And but what I like the underlying theme, I would say, is that when project managers talk about and embrace the idea that you're living in project land, that and to help everybody else understand. I mean, we know it. I feel project managers know this in their hearts, right? But most people don't live where we live in project land, right? We live in the world of projects. We think about budgets, we think about schedules, we think about this is just how our brains work over time. And other people don't think this way. So when we can start to communicate that, okay, when you're on a project, folks, you are in project land. It's a different world with different roles and rules. What I've found is people have taken this idea and concept and they've used it in their organizations, and it's helped them tremendously with the people aspects because people otherwise make assumptions that the same roles and rules that make them successful in operations or business as usual will make them
Mhm.
successful on a project, and it is just not the case.
It's
So
not.
that's sort of the that's just like that underlying theme, and obviously part of the title of the book, Meet the Players in Project Land, that can help communicate that.
One of the things that you just said that made me think is that we also think too that, hey, I was such a great manager of myself, and then I get promoted as a project manager, I'll be successful too. And it's just different. Before, you were just managing yourself. Now you have to manage all the ins and outs and get people, and you're frustrated. You're like, why aren't they listening to me? I'm the project manager. And they're like, and like half of them don't even know how to spell project manager, let alone know what your role is. How do you, or is there a particular chapter in your book or just in general advice that you would say to folks around that, hey, I was so good at managing my as an individual contributor, why can't I have the same results or success now as this official project manager?
Oh, that's a good one. That's really a good one. I mean, that happened to me.
Hmm.
I was plucked to be a project manager, and I had been an individual contributor before that. So I totally feel the pain of anybody that might be experiencing this, because I certainly did too. I would say that there is an entire chapter dedicated to the project manager role first
Okay.
and foremost. So that I would dig into if folks are interested in it. And the number one thing PMI says is 90% of the job is communication.
Hmm.
So 90% of the job, 90% of the job being communication, that means a lot of things. But if you're as an individual contributor, I mean, you can manage yourself, that's great. But other people need to know things like why? Why are we doing this? Why is this more important than the other 10 things on my plate?
Right.
Why now? Right? And so the sometimes I think people think that other people can read their minds, and nobody is a mind reader that I know of. So, short of becoming a mind reader and getting mind readers on your team, communication is where it's at. So, if you feel like, hey, you know what, I am a pretty good communicator, or I at least recognize that communication is something like golf I can always try to get better at, then, yes, do it. And I feel that, and I coach on this too, that when you are communicating, if you get tired of yourself hearing yourself say same thing, they're just starting to hear you.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You nailed it. Yes, yes, yes. But it's like the marketing we do as business owners. You have to communicate it about 9, 12 times, and it's no different. Like people are inundated with all kinds of other information. So I love that reminder. If you're tired, they're just now hearing you. So I love that. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the unique avatars Dawn created in her book and her invaluable advice for project managers. Remember, this is just the second part of our 4-part series with Dawn, so be sure to join us for the next episode where we'll continue to uncover more of her project management wisdom. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And don't forget to grab a copy of Dawn's book, Meet the Players in Projectland, to explore these avatars in even more detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Crystal Richards, and this is Real Life PMP Podcast. Until next time, keep your projects on track and your stakeholders engaged.